That was good, Ian.
It was good?
It was. The last
Okay.
came out momentarily.
Okay.
That's good.
So look okay now?
Yep.
Okay, good. Let's get on before it changes. So yeah, so did anybody guess what the background is on this?
Cranberries.
There you go. Okay, great. The first test you've come across with flying colors. Okay, moving. So about one of the first things that we did this year was nest box cleaning. So this year we were out. I think the previous year we didn't do any. So this year we went out to Colony Farm, and we have Daryl here at a couple of our boxes on the poles. And please, if anybody has any comments on going through those photos, please speak up or a story about it. That'd be great. And we have Sid up here on the pole. And just to show, what we find inside the boxes. We hadn't done them for a year or two at Colony Farm. And this particular one, it's got a wasp nest in it. Show a bit closer. And what it looks like outside. Lots of duck feathers. And this was interesting. It was quite thick, so I figured that probably it was multiple nests that were on top of each other. This is Justin holding it outside the box. So pretty thick in material. And you can see the tiny bit of wood shavings at the bottom. And I believe this is at the Minnetonka stables area. And that's Jeff. And then I kind of grouped things into different areas. So at Blakeburn and the Reflections Garden, there was a few things going on there. A lot of invasive removal. So if anybody to say anything about this, I wasn't able to attend any of these activities. But coordinate with the City of Poco. And I know there's been some work done on it lately with an agreement with the City of Poco on things going on at the Reflections Garden.
It's quite a fun time because people who walk by always chat with us, and some of the dogs get to know us and come up and nuzzle us when we're pulling some of the weeds out.
Great.
I guess this looks like before we spread the mulch around, because we got quite a few loads of mulch that we wheelbarrowed here, there, and everywhere. That was a good workout.
So this was a before photo. Well, you've probably taken, yeah. And Kathy was just talking. That's her on the left. And pretty hard work sometimes, Kathy.
Sometimes, but we stand up and stretch, and we usually have a snack. So everyone does their, at their own rate.
Good.
The pitchforks come in really handy for digging. Sometimes they're better than the shovels. Oh, and there's Loretta. Boy, she's just a laugh a minute. I really enjoy her company.
And Como Lake was similar at Blakeburn, which I didn't mention, was it's a fabulous place to go to. We've had some of our June meetings there, and they're also doing water monitoring, but I didn't have any photos submitted for the water monitoring, so right. I can't show that. Yeah, and also just to mention that whatever photos I get, what I show. So if you don't see any photos, that's because I didn't get them or couldn't find them. So Como Lake, beautiful spot. And again, this time with the city of Coquitlam in coordination, doing invasive removal, as well as, again, water monitoring is done at Como Lake.
And we do a bird count there once a month too.
Perfect. And I'm not sure who this is, but they're kind of deep in the bush there.
Yeah, this is just along the path on the west side. It was quite overgrown. with the blackberry. Yep. I think we had 3 truckloads taken out that day. It was quite exciting. And it's nice to see the areas that we've cut back and dug out. When we go back, there's just a few little weaklings that are easy to dig out. So that's really nice to see that it doesn't come back.
Yeah, big piles.
It's nice to work by the pathway because people stop and chat and ask us what we're doing and stuff. Other times we're closer to the water and people don't see us. So we get to do a little PR work about who we are and what we're doing there.
And it's also good working with the city in that as well.
Yeah. I don't know if we sent any pictures of us collecting those seed pods. The
Yes,
yellow
yes,
flag-
we have some photos of that. Yeah.
Oh, good,
yeah, we
because
do.
that was that was a good time too.
Is that what you're talking
Oh
about?
yeah, oh yeah.
See,
We were
you-
in the water.
That was really fun.
Kathy and Lori, does the city have plans to plant in those areas to prevent the, with native species to prevent the regrowth of the non-native?
Not yet. Right now, all we're doing is maintaining it, preventing it from getting worse by clipping the seed pods. But the city has been doing an experiment to see, they're trying out 3 different methods of trying to control or get rid of these plants. And they should be deciding within the next year which method they think is the best. And then they're going to, pursue that one. Then hopefully there'll be some replanting. So it's a long process. We have to be really patient, which is hard because, lots of times we just want to go for it.
It's the plant. It's yellow flag iris.
Correct.
yeah,
You
I've
have
got
some
some.
of that at DeBovo?
We have some of that at the mobile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've tried lifting up the roots, which are like tubers, like fingers. Man, they are really stuck. So I think this is going to be quite the job. One of the things they're trying is putting black plastic over it to just kind of smother it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all those
Yeah.
seed pods were that we collected were counted by. This was in the summer by some part-time people, so we got to interact with some students, chat with them.
I'm really glad to see they're doing that. We're doing that in Port Moody, over under the heron colony. It's we're in our 2nd year, so you have to kill the rhizome. So they're doing the same process that they did at Deer Lake, which really worked, and that's covering the rhizome. There's no digging involved. It's just covering the rhizome up with the plastic, and then the plastic is removed annually to see if there's been any regeneration. So the next season, this would be our 3rd season, and there has been some success with that. There was a really good program at Deer Lake, and they got rid of the Japanese flag iris along a long section of the lake using that same process.
Wow.
And do you know what they replaced it with? Because one of the issues is that this is holding up the shoreline along the edge of the lake.
Yeah, if you go to, it's really interesting what it looks like now. If you go to the entrance off of, what's the name of the street? It's the main, it's the main.
At the
when you get to
beach?
here-
And the
Yeah, right at the
bathrooms?
beach, yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you get out of the car and you're facing the lake, so that you take the trail as though you're going to go counterclockwise
On the north
Yep.
side.
on the north side,
Yep.
and it's all a really interesting meadow now with all kinds of different species in it. We stood there for quite a while and couldn't find any signs of Japanese flag iris in there. So you can go, so anybody can go have a look. I don't know how they've done it. I have you know, I know that they were using the black, they used the tarps, yeah, for a few years, a year or two. And then they just quickly started replanting in there.
We should go on a field trip, Lori, see what's
Yeah.
there.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll have to
I'll
move
go
on with
with
the
you.
photos here, so.
So we digress.
Yeah, let me send
So
out
if
an
I
invite
assume-
right now.
I assume this was this the Flagstaff, were those the seed pods?
Yeah, it looks like corn.
And they
Yeah.
float and they spread so well.
So is
around
this is this the
Lake.
same thing or is this something different?
No, this is some kind of lily thing that we found
Okay.
that was quite exotic looking.
Ken, I did notice that Kath was already drinking something after the
The city provided us with
beer.
no, blackberry buble or
Oh,
bubbly.
okay.
We
Okay.
call it buble in our house. It's a joke.
And these are from Jeff. I don't know if is Jeff on the line?
Yeah, this was a dragonfly exuvia. When it metamorpho, it leaves its exoskeleton behind and grows a new one. And so this is Liz holding this dragonfly shell skin.
Wow. And Jeff, again, one of your photos of nest, of course.
Yeah, I think Kathy, did you find this nest?
Yeah, this is in the wildlife area. Wow, there's all kinds of stuff in there. And what I find very interesting is that when we find these treasures, we're really excited. Like, oh wow, what is that? Let's take a look. I find that very refreshing.
Hey,
Sorry, where was that nest found, Kathy?
In the wild area, you know, when you're walking on the north end of Como Lake, there's a fenced in area. Well, we were in behind there along the creek edge where the public doesn't go. So
We were in the unauthorized area.
because we were authorized.
We were authorized.
It kind of looks like a marsh wren's nest a little bit.
It was it looks like mostly grass, doesn't it?
Yeah, but wrapped around and around like that. I don't know whether Rob Butler has anything to say about that. Perhaps not. It's
No.
okay.
Okay.
I have to unmute my
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah.
His wife Rob had left us, so.
I'm not going to be much help. It looks to me like it possibly is a song sparrow. Is that possible? I mean, there's an awful lot of grass, but
Yeah.
it's something, you know, a ground nester or close to it. So there'd be lots of song sparrows there. So that would be my guess.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Sure.
And this was the only photo I have of the water monitoring. So thanks very much to Janet for sending this one in. And this is though you can't really see it, but I believe it says water rangers, and we've got kits and that from them to do the water monitoring. And so we'll move over to Deauville Slough, in which Deauville Slough was their own group, and this year they joined as being part of BMN as a committee. And so they had 3 meetings, 3 outings of knotweed removal or invasive removal, and they collected 470 kilograms of knotweed, and they attended a couple of events, so the Fingerling Festival and the Hoy Creek Salmon Come Home Festival. This was in the local paper showing that the stream keepers or slough keepers, I should say, unite with the Burke Mountain naturalists. And some couple of group shots of the people that have been out doing the invasive removal, mainly the knotweed. And this is a city staff, I believe, or again with the city of Coquitlam.
Yeah, that's Marianne Fernandez, who is just hugely helpful with all the invasive plant removals this year.
Great. Again, it's a fun time coming out and chatting while you're cutting the knotweed, and again, a lot of people stopping by as you're cutting and chatting and asking questions.
There was a lot of knotweed to cut this year because we hadn't done anything really in the last couple of years. So it was nice to get back at it.
And I took this photo just showing, this was me down below on the other side of the blackberry. We have a lot of blackberry to contend with as well. And so there's Edie, Dave, and Jeff looking down at me. And on, I believe it was October 1st, we were out there, and I remember being down off the dike on the south side, and Paul Mason saying to me, "Do you smell smoke?" And I go, "Yeah, you're right, I do smell smoke." And then when we came up on the dike, that's when we saw the fire at the Minnetonka High Knoll.
It's a picture of the fire here. Someone took on a hike.
Yeah.
Really good picture.
Well, this was actually while we were doing the knotweed removal on the same day, and you can see the helicopter that was coming in there. So that was quite surprising. They got
Does it-
far work. Go ahead, Laura, if
Sorry.
that was you.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to put my hand up. My apologies. I was just curious if anyone has an update from Metro Vancouver on what's going on there. I had heard they weren't going to plan on doing any replanting, but does anyone have any recent information on the park? Thanks.
No, other than they opened up some of the trails, but I don't know what trails have opened. I haven't been in there since the fire.
Laura, I know that they were trying to do, they had a fundraiser, sort of a crowdsource, big fundraiser going on through the Metro site. So they went on for few months.
It might
anyway,
be still
so it
going
might
on.
be still going on. So I don't know if I don't know how much money they raised or what happened with that.
Okay, interesting.
you.
I'll have to check it out. Thank you.
I was sent just this past week a map of all the trails that are still closed in Minnetonka Park.
Okay.
And it's still quite significant, like even the trail between the upper and lower marsh, and then everything really to the east of that is all closed off. This was in relation to whether to do the Crispus bird count in there. We're actually not, we're taking that, we're not doing that portion of the Tri-Cities in the count because it's just not accessible.
Yeah. Okay, so we were involved in the Coquitlam in Bloom. And Lori or Edie, I don't know if you want to say something about this.
Well, we've done a display at, this is at Blue Mountain Park. We've done that for the last 4 years, I think. And this was a particularly good display because Edie had actually worked on our display there and got some new pictures. And we also had some interesting items loaned by Nancy Furness. So it was well received.
Great.
And it's a great opportunity for us to connect with the city staff and the council and mayor. We invited the mayor over to take a look at our display.
Okay. So got a few photos from the Samacum Home Festival.
Can I just make a quick comment,
Sure.
please? Just I wanted to say thanks, everyone, for the photos of the last 2 photos, and the banner of the barn owl was taken by a really dear friend of mine. His name is Clarence Schramm, and he just passed away of ALS on the 18th of December or 18th of November. So I just wanted to pass along that sad goings on and the loss of a really brilliant wildlife photographer in our community who spent a lot of time taking pretty amazing photos, that of which is one. Thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Laura.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
So when we have the festivals, there's always some work that needs to be done ahead of time. So this was a new part of the display that was added. We'll have a photo of a second. There's the display. And so we were a little ways away from the hatchery, but in between where the hatchery was and where other displays were at Douglas College, actually worked out really well. There's a lot of people that were walking back and forth between the two. And this is the display that we saw Catherine and Kathy making up. And this was quite popular in especially the younger crowd of trying to figure out which sort of evolutional stage of the salmon. So that was great. And Odie the bear was there too. Seemed to be asked a lot of questions, but he wasn't able to answer any of them. Not sure what that was about. And then Odie got a free.
The bear was a big hit with some of the dogs that came
Oh.
by and growled and couldn't figure out what it was. So that was
Some of the dogs were scared of Odie.
that was hilarious.
And so if Catherine's on the line, maybe you can talk about the scavengers.
Okay, yeah, the scavenger hunt is a lot of number of BMN members. They come to be the nature mentors and guide the families that in my work, through my work. And these families are families with 0 to 6 years old children. And we bring them out to different parks. And this is the Coquitlam River. And you can see the little Batman learning from our big Batman.
And John's a big part of that, I think, because I think he's in all the photos.
Yeah.
This one was at Colony Farm, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, this
So
is
this was Coquitlam River.
yeah. John started this with me, and then I'm so lucky that we have like Kathy, Jim and Judy, Caitlin. If I miss out anyone, yeah, just so lucky that a lot more members just come out to help. And this is the shoreline. Yeah, this is the shoreline.
In Port Moody.
In Port Moody. Obviously, they're looking for the heron.
Okay. And I think that was it for the photos of that. So.
Mhm.
And then
I just want to add that it's not only the kids that learn a lot on these walks, it's the parents. We were at Mundy Park and we met by the swimming pool, and then we walked into the forest, and one of the moms said, "Oh, I didn't even know this was here." And I thought, wow, you know, come on down. And she was really excited about, wow, you can push your carriage along this path. I'm going to bring my sister here and the kids. And I just thought, thank you, lady. We just got paid. Like, it was really good to see our message going out and people being excited about it. So if you want to hang around with little kids and, you know, be thrilled to find a spider web, I highly recommend Catherine's project here. You're really doing a lot for the community, Catherine. I'm just,
Thank you.
this is a fun thing to do in the summer for me.
Yeah, it's my passion to bring people who's afraid to go into the trail, to bring them. And
Great.
we do. Yeah.
great, thanks, Catherine and Kathy. So Vanier, I don't know too much about this, the Vanier School Pollinator Meadow. I'm not sure. This is a project he's been working on, and I know they've put up bat boxes, and obviously they're doing some plantings for pollinators. And Vanier School is near Austin and Schoolhouse in Coquitlam. And then West Hill Park, if Brian wants to say anything. I believe this was our June show and share, which was an outdoor show and share walk around West Hill Park. And Cleon was involved with this as well.
Oh, totally, yes. Yeah, a Rotary project, the Rotary Club of Port Moody, that rejuvenated West Hill Park in Port Moody. We gravelled the trail around the park. We decommissioned some old trails that were a bit hazardous. The trail is now wheelchair friendly, so all members of the community are able to enjoy this little gem in the middle of Port Moody. It's only a 350-metre loop trail, but so quiet. And when you're in there, you wouldn't know that the city is just meters away. It's really quiet. Lots of forest bathing will get done. So BMN, we partnered with BMN for this, and a number of nest boxes were installed on trees, courtesy of our president. And the boxes were built by one of John Saremba's friends, Gord Mayenberg, and they are just fabulous, and they've been utilised to some degree, but it's a work in progress. Just a fabulous little project to work on.
And I believe this was a flicker box, but we found a squirrel in it.
Yep. He didn't like the squirrel box. He wanted the flicker box.
That's right. So you can see the box at the bottom right, and then the squirrel is closer to the top of the tree, and I got a bit of a closer photo on the next one. So he didn't like the idea of us hitting his box and then opening it, so he was gone.
Mhm.
But yeah, just interesting to see the different layers. You know, we put in the wood shavings at the bottom, and then all the other material was brought in. And the autumn nature walks. I'm not sure if Jeff, I think you were on them, and Victoria, I think you were on some of them. If you wanted to talk at all about this, I believe this one was Gillette Park along the Coquitlam River from Gillette Park to McTavish.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, that's up there. Yeah, but I'm not exactly sure.
I'm pretty sure I think that's Gillette Park right there.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so we walked from Gillette Park down to McTavish and back, and a beautiful little stretch of trail along the river.
And I was told that this was juvenile white-crowned sparrow.
Okay.
Brian, are you still there? Or sorry, Jeff, I should say. Jeff, your mic is off if you want to say.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll take your word for it.
Okay, I'll take Mark's word for it too. And so this was, I believe, along Maple Creek.
Yeah, that's a little habitat enhancement pond down at Maple Creek, just below Bedford and Chine.
And then this was a side channel to the Coquitlam River. Maybe I'll just carry on, Jeff. Your mic
Yeah,
keeps on going
my
off. So
connection's not very good, so the photos take a while to update. Yeah, that's just a little side channel, just downstream from McAllister.
And a mushroom, Amanita. And this was a group heading back up onto the dike, I believe, along the Coquitlam River.
Yeah, so the nature walks were really a lot of fun. Good turnouts. I think we had sort of 12, 13, 14 people on them, and they're pretty leisurely, but they're a lot of fun.
And I believe this is the wetland at Como Lake.
Yep, looks like it.
And Snowberry. It's one of the grassy areas. And Orange Crown. And then we'll get on to the hikes. So this year we started hikes back up again. Not too many challenging hikes, much easier hikes, except for one of them. This was our first one of the year, was in the Chines, the sort of Miller Ravine and Chines. So this was maidenhair fern, trilliums. And one of my goals for this year especially was to try and identify the difference between Hooker's Fairy Bell and Twisted Stock. And so I was definitely able to do that this year, and was sharing. It was a great place to see both of them. This is Hooker's Fairy Bell. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this is the main part on the stem as it goes down, as to the difference between Hooker's Fairy Bell and Twisted Stock. So I'll show you in a second here. Also, the other easy way to tell is when flower, the Hooker's Fairy Bell has the flowers at the end of the stem, where Twisted Stock is. I'll show that and it'll be different. So this is Twisted Stock. As you can see, when it gets down closer to the stem, the stem actually goes through part of the leaf. So that's the biggest way to tell the difference between the two. Even a bit more of a close up here. And then also the flowers of the twisted stalk are underneath the leaf, attached to the stem, where, as I mentioned, the flowers come on the little tiny sort of little branch or a stem coming off, very thin, and
Great
they sit
photos.
underneath. So, and then to throw into the mix is the false Solomon seal, which can look like twisted stalk, but it only grows just on one stem, where the twisted stalk and Hooker's Fairy Bell have branches coming off. So anyways, come on a walk with me in the spring and I'll show it to you. This was a hike that Terry Poles led around Deer Lake. Some interesting sculptures. And then we got into the gardens. Terry, I don't know if you're on the line, if you want to say anything. And I believe this is the Chabot house. I think it's on the edge of the gardens. Some great views from there of the mountains.
see Dad.
I see one message in the chat. I don't know if anybody's having a look at that. I'm looking down from the west side down at Deer Lake, and with the Golden Ears Mountains here, and then you can see Widgeon Peak and Coquitlam Mountain. And to celebrate the anniversary of the Pinecone Brook Park, we had our woodland walk. And just to give you the two signs on the top, those were made by Doug Benny, probably close to 30 years ago. And the bottom sign I made probably close to 12 years ago. So they're still holding up. This was at the Woodland Walk Falls with the big Douglas fir tree, the old growth. Same area, we put up some signs leading people up to Sawblade Falls. And Sawblade Falls was really roaring when we were there on I think it was June 4th, if I remember right. But yeah, a lot of water in Sawblade Falls. And a new plank across one of the creeks on the lower loop. And then we saw some false Solomon seal, quite tall. And then just before getting back, all of a sudden we ran into this couple that were looking at something, and then we looked over and there was a baby barred owl that was down on the ground, and they'd contacted I think it was Wildlife Rescue, and Wildlife Rescue advised that that the mother won't come down to the ground and get it, that you have to put it up in the tree somewhere on a branch. So between myself and this lady here, we tried to coax it onto a branch. It wouldn't get onto the branch, and we ended up picking it up with 2 sticks, and it's putting it up on a piece of cedar up high up on a stump. And then I came back a couple hours later and it was gone. And I looked all over the place for it and couldn't find it. So I'm hoping that mom came back and got it, and a predator didn't get it. But I didn't see any feathers around, so that was a good thing. And then this was another hike led by Terry, and Chris helped out with this one. This was up to the Grouse Mountain wind turbine. There was just 3 people on this hike. It looked like it was a bit of a cloudy day, but they did see some wildlife. And even it's not too often we see grizzly bears on our hikes, but they were lucky enough to see a grizzly bear. The trying to think what the names are, Grinder and can't think what the other one is. But anyways, they're in a fenced area for people to view the grizzly bears. And a little chipmunk. And then we, later in the year, we had a hike into Pinnacle Creek, some fairly sizable Douglas fir trees in there. It's Mark and Jeff. Wasn't a big group that we had out that evening, but it's a great place to get into. One of these hidden gems in the Tri-Cities. Quite sizable Douglas fir trees. And then we had the Coquitlam Lake Trail hike. So this was at the intersection of the South Slope Trail and the Coquitlam Lakeview Trail. Again, the signs in the background are from Doug Benny from about 30 years ago. And then from the viewpoint, we got lucky enough that we had a nice view of Coquitlam Lake on this day. And just looking up Coquitlam Lake a little bit further with the mountains in the background. The lake was a little bit low, as you can see some of the white areas around the edge of the lake. And then it's a bit of a different trip this time that a new trail has been put in between the Coquitlam Lakeview Trail and the South Slope Trail. So we were able to take that. And I'd only walked it once before, but funny enough, when I walked it the second time, I couldn't believe it's a lot of old growth that you walk through, and it's quite spectacular. And funny enough, I didn't take any photos of it, but so next time I go through there, I'll have to definitely take some photos. But it's pretty spectacular, and it brings you out at what we call Sweat Team Falls or at Coho Creek, and this is right at the edge of where the clear cut is and the old growth starts. And we did another hike. I think this one was called the West Chines. So these are stairs that go down at the end of Blue Mountain Street. And a tree had come down across the trail, since been removed. And as you get down towards Port Moody Senior Secondary School, you look across Port Moody Inlet to the Sulphur Piles and Eagle Ridge in the background. And you can also even see the Diaz Vistas and what's actually Sugar Mountain in the foreground, and then Diaz Vistas in the background. And just, it was later in the year, you get the fall colors changing. And then our last hike of the year was into Belcarra Bluffs area. Some nice fungus on the trees. And a frog or a toad that blends in very much into the forest floor. And when we came out of the forest, we came out to the power lines where there's a bit of a view looking down into Port Moody Inlet. And then we headed up to the true viewpoint spectacular, the Belcarra Bluffs Lookout. It's really quite spectacular, and most of the time when I'm there, I don't see anybody else at the viewpoint. Actually, pardon me, that wasn't our last hike either. Last hike of the year was into Ridge Park. So a little waterfall with the stream crossing at this point. And then we get up to a viewpoint that looks over Coquitlam, Westwood Plateau, over the Pitt River, and then into Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge. And this is really interesting cedar tree, how it's grown. It's quite spectacular. And Jim wasn't holding it up with his head or his shoulders, but yeah, it's quite amazing. And then we do have some individual photos from people. So I don't know if Diane Kitzik McDonald's on the line, but if you can maybe say something about your photos. Otherwise, I'll just go through them.
I am here.
Good, perfect.
Yeah, this was a seniors bus trip to Calgary, and these were some of the animal passes, and they would have fences. They knew already where the animals like to cross, so they would build these overpasses to prevent the animals being killed and the people being killed. So there were 2 of them in Alberta, and that's just not very good quality. But the first ones they would build under. And the smart animals would just wait for their dinner to come. They used to build them under the tunnels, and then they built them over the highway. So they had more chance to survive. But it was very interesting, and the fact that they had fences for miles or kilometers, and just so that the animals, they would tend to go those trails anyway, but they really made sure they did go. But it was just quite interesting to hear. It was quite an informational trip. Oh, get the other one first.
Sorry, I should have had it first. Yes.
This was a strange sighting in Drumheller. First time I'd seen one sort of stomping around the territory. Next one, he did swallow us, but we didn't look too unhappy. And we had a wonderful view from up, looking out from his mouth. So that was in Drumheller near Calgary. So I think that was it. Oh yeah, no, this was, that was my second photo. The first one, they all had their white bums. It was just from the bus, but the second photo had some of them looking at the bus. So they weren't all 10 little white bottoms facing on. So
they're Rocky Mountain Bighorn sheep, I believe is what they are.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you walk in the hoodoos too in Drumheller?
Pardon?
Did you walk in the hoodoos in Drumheller?
Yes, we went in the voodoos, and we went into that wonderful Tyrrell Museum. The voodoo, I have a picture of the voodoos, but I didn't send it. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice in there.
Yeah. So it was a fun, very educational trip. So thank you. Yeah.
Great.
Nice.
So Ron, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but this is a mule deer in canola.
Yes, this is up near Fort St. John. I finally got back to Pink Mountain this year after missing a couple of years. I was driving past this enormous canola field, and I could see a pair of ears sticking up out of the flowers, and that was all I could see. So I stopped and watched, and eventually some antlers came up, and realized there was a mule deer out there. So I parked the car, and got out, and over a long period of time, I managed to walk up to within 20 feet of the animal before it raised its head. It looked straight at me, gave me these full face photographs, and then went back to its feeding. So I was not disguised in any way. I was just moving slowly and quietly. I was downwind from the animal, and he looked straight at me and didn't recognize me as a threat, because at that point I stopped dead, except for my trigger finger that was clicking away. So it just goes to show it's your own behavior that controls things. This was on Ping Mountain. I could see the ptarmigan moving along through the grass. I really liked the grass in the background. So once again, I spent at least 20 minutes watching this bird before I finally got kind of the arrangement of the bird and the grass that I was hoping for. This is my pileated woodpecker, who is coming to a tree that died at the back of my property. It became a hazard tree, so I had to take it down. And now the woodpeckers have almost chopped right through it. I'm expecting it to. When the woodcutters came to take it down, I asked them to leave the lower 40 feet of the of the trunk for the woodpeckers, and they just love it. And once again, by working my way very slowly and quietly, I was able to get up to, well, this close. I'm using a telephoto lens, but I'm still within less than 30 feet from the bird. So it's pretty special. My hummingbird feeder in the cold weather, I have a heat lamp that I turn on. I have a thermometer out there, and I watch the weather forecast. And if it's going to be freezing, because these little guys need to tank up early. They're there almost when it's barely light enough to see them. I mean, they've had a cold night. They need to feed early. The usual recommendation online is to bring your feeder in cold weather, but I knew that wasn't good advice, because the birds are needing to feed before we're out of bed. So I put this heat lamp up, and I've been using that for several years now. Seems to work well. And this is this snowfall that we had in Port Moody a couple of weeks back. So this is very recent, taken from my kitchen.
That I guess it's an Anna's hummingbird with all its feathers all fluffed out.
Yes, it's an Anna's. I have been having a years-long battle of wits with the squirrels, and I have finally found a solution that will keep them off my feeders. They can get on top of that sheet of plexiglass, that roof, but they cannot get from there onto the feeder. And it's interesting, now they don't even try anymore. Even new generations of squirrels don't even try. I'm not quite sure how that works, whether there's some sort of communication going on, but when I first put them up there, the squirrels were experimenting with them a lot. But then eventually they figured it out, stay away and not bother.
I love how it hangs on with its hind legs, how they sort of turn around and they're like hands.
Ian, I wish I had sent you another picture. Before I started using these roofs, you can buy plexiglass domes to put above a feeder. And I have a series of pictures of the squirrel hanging on, as you see him here, with his back feet, but draping himself down over the dome. And then he let go with his hind feet. And as he was falling past the feeder, he grabbed the bottom of the feeder with his back feet as he was falling and pulled himself back up. I've got a really neat sequence of that.
Wow.
These guys are fun. I really admire them. Again, from Pink Mountain, this is the alpine fir. I just like the composition and the lighting on it. Another use for my bird photography lens. This turned out to be a surprise benefit of my bike riding on the dike. I go out pretty nearly every morning, unless it's really pouring rain. And these cranberry fields are just at the mouth of the Coquitlam of the Pitt River, where it enters the Fraser, and totally inaccessible by public roads. But the dike runs right alongside the back of the fields. And I went out every morning for 5 days in a row and was able to photograph the entire harvesting operation. It was pretty interesting. So these are what they call cranberry beaters. They partially flood the cranberry field and then drive these things up and down to loosen the berries from the plants. And then they completely flood the field. The berries all float to the surface, and they're collected. A lot of manual labor. They have to wade around in those berries with towing long floating booms to collect the berries over to in that previous picture. You saw a conveyor with a paddle at the base of it. Yeah, you just passed it. In this one, on the right, there is a conveyor that lifts the berries up and eventually into the back of a container truck. They
I think this.
it's 100. Oh yeah, yes, there it is. Each of these containers, I was told, holds 160,000 pounds of berries, and I watched them take 3 of these containers out of one field. So it's pretty productive, and apparently Ocean Spray has a processing plant in Pitt Meadows, I believe, and so they were trucking them over there. Pretty interesting operation.
Okay.
Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ron. Michelle and Ty, are you on the line?
Yep, we are. This is over by Esquimalt Lagoon. Every year we get one swan. There used to be lots and lots of swans out this way, but apparently through a whole bunch of poaching and things like that, we don't have the amount of swans. But then there's also pintails and mallards and all kinds of things, usually around November and December through January. And he's very, very tame. This is a picture of souk potholes. Usually you can go like tubing down souk potholes, but last April it was really, really rainy, and I wouldn't have put a tube in there to save my soul. And this is a whole bunch of fawn lilies. We get a lot of different kinds of flowers at the beginning of spring. This is over by Swan Lake Sanctuary, over.
This is in the Victoria area.
In the Victoria area. And next picture.
Yeah.
There has been a resurgence of an indigenous plant to the area, which is the camas, or the camas plant, which is used by the Songhees and the Esquimalt in the area. They harvest most of it. They use that bulb for a lot of indigenous dishes. And you can find camas almost everywhere that you're in Gary Oak, the Gary Oak areas. And this was our first crop of Canada geese over by Portage Inlet. Portage Inlet comes up from the Inner Harbor in Victoria and comes all the way up into View Royal. Not quite the flock of baby geese that you have out there, but I have no idea what this is. It's some type of anemone, I believe. During low tide in the beginning of July, you can go way out into the lagoons and over by Fort Rod Hill and get to see all kinds of different barnacles, and seen some moon snails, a lot of gooey duck. And this one, if anybody knows what it is, I would love to find out. It's really, really interesting and very, very squishy. And this is the underside of a mossy chiton. I did not know how pretty the underside is when the mossy chiton flips over and dies. So it was just a little bit unusual, and it's embedded in some eelgrass. And that again is over at Fort Rod Hill, which is just off of near Esquimalt Lagoon, across from the naval base.
Can I ask a silly question?
Oh, it's not a silly question. Any question's a good question.
Can I ask what a mossy chiton is?
Oh,
Thank
it's a little mollusk, so that if you want to go back, so if you think about flipping it over, you see these things that almost look like what is the prehistoric thing called?
Armor plated?
Well, it looks like a little armor plated thing. Oh, I wish I remembered. There is something that you can
Trilobite.
Trilobite. It looks
Oh,
like a trilobite, except it's fuzzy.
Okay.
That's why they
Can-
call it a mossy chiton.
Can you spell it so I can look it up after our meeting as well? Mossy.
Mossy like moss.
Yep.
with a Y. CHIOTON.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And Laura had a question too, or was that Laura?
That was me.
Oh, okay, cool. When the tide goes out, I've found that we have quite a few sea stars now out this way, and most of them look quite healthy. There doesn't seem to be too much wasting disease with them. And this is Ty's picture.
Well, we just took it just east of Sachs Point at a little harbor there. He came out to visit us and look for a handout. So yeah.
Imagine that, a harbor seal in the harbor.
Yeah, who'd have thought?
Okay, thanks very much, guys. And I don't think John Reynolds is on, but he sent me some photos of wildlife cameras. So here, this is on Belcarra Mountain. So this is a cougar that was spotted, and you can take note with the tree on the right hand side, because you'll see that on most of the photos. I do. There's one more of the cougar there, and these were taken, I think, 2 to 3 weeks ago. And then I don't know. Hopefully, this is going to work out. No, it's the same tree. Pointing. It's the same tree here, but this is a bobcat, and hopefully this will work because it's a video. So hopefully you can see it.
Sorry, Ian, where was this again?
Belcarra Mountain. So Belcarra area.
Okay.
We did a hike up there. Did everybody see? Could you see the video?
Sort of, yeah.
So was it?
We saw the bobcat.
Okay. You saw the bobcat. Okay. I'll try
It
and.
was there. It was there, then it was gone.
Yeah.
Okay. There it was. You saw the bobcat. Okay. You saw the tree. Okay. John also picked up something else at the same camera.
Hikers.
More wildlife.
So other wildlife as well. Yeah. So I was stomping on ground that was, covered by a cougar, 2 weeks before that. So interesting to see me throwing branches to the side of the trail as well. So that's kind of the usual thing that I do. So anyways, I thought that was interesting when he sent that to me. So catching me in the wild. So I'll go. We don't have a whole lot of time here, so I'll go through my photos pretty quickly. Just showing some of the work that some people have referred to us as trail fairies, or doing trail work. So as we get rid of some of those windfalls that are in people's way. This is interesting. This is up on the trail that goes from the Widgeon campsite area to Burke Mountain. This sign that you see on the right on the tree, it's probably been up there for 8 years, maybe 10 years. And I've had to put the sign back up probably over 5 times because the bear keeps on pulling it down, and you can see all the bite marks in it that that have happened over the time. And it's actually in a couple of pieces, but yeah, I still keep on just putting it back up again, and the bear keeps on tearing it down. This is a new bridge on the Widgeon Falls Trail. This is going across Hanging Creek, which is an incredible waterfall. Hundreds upon hundreds of people go to Widgeon Falls, but they don't make the extra half an hour to 20-minute trip up to this waterfall, which is pretty spectacular. This photo doesn't do justice for the waterfall. It's quite high and quite beautiful. And you can't see it in this photo, but on lower water, there's even a pool at the bottom where you can go for a dip.
I have some pictures of you there.
She do, Dave. I think me sliding down the falls as well.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Sort of. So this is a place we did as a BMN hike back in the late 90s. This is to a place called Snow Cave Creek. This is in what we call the Upper Widgeon area. So I was up there with Dean, checking out an area that I hadn't been in 20 years. Went to quite a few places this year that I hadn't been in 20 to 25 years. So I'm hoping at some point that BC Parks puts in a good bridge across Widgeon Creek, and we can get more people up into the Upper Widgeon. This is pretty spectacular waterfall. The whole Upper Widgeon Valley is just littered with water all over the place. When we were working in there in the 90s, fighting for the provincial park, this was a place that we camped at. We've since put up a sign because they're in 20 and 22 or 21 and 22 doing trail work and trying to remark and find the old trail that led into Debec Creek. The sign at the bottom you see is what's left of Doug Benny's old hiker sign. We're now starting to make some new ones of those that we're putting up. You'll see that in some photos. Again, beautiful valley, the Upper Widgeon. That one creek I mentioned was Snow Cave Creek. I threw this photo in because it's showing possibly some snow caves from the snow that collects down in the bottom of the cliffs. These photos were taken at the end of June. And this was a place that I tried to find last year. This is the pass that takes you over into Debec Creek. So this is about 3/4 the way up Pitt Lake on the west side. And so this year we were successful in finding the correct pass to go through and the easiest way to get into Debec Valley. It's looking down from the pass, looking down the Upper Widgeon. And then once you get across into Debec, that's looking up Debec. And this is the whole Debec Valley going up here. And you look up into the Mamquam, Boise area, Gillespie Mountain, the Boise Bumps, they're all up in this area here. And just poking out on the top left is one of the 5 fingers. And I believe this is the one that Jeff Rudd has been up on top of. And I'll just do a bit of a close-up of it. I believe that's the little finger of the 5 fingers. And I was lucky enough to go up Pitt Lake with Dean and Mark Haddock. Mark got a new boat, and so he was itching to get up Pitt Lake. So we went up Pitt Lake. This is Osprey Valley and Osprey Peak, and that's the head of Pitt Lake. But our goal of the day was to get into the Debec Valley. Again, a valley that I hadn't been in 25 years. There's a beautiful waterfall partway up. And some big fir trees along the edge of the creek. And we wanted to mark the area where you have to go off the old road and head down to where the waterfall is. So we put up a new hiking sign and a couple of markers. And I was so happy to see this sign when I got there because this was identifying where you have to leave the Debec Valley Road and head up towards the Widgeon Valley. And so this sign would have been put up in either 93 or 94. So it's closing in on 30 years. And I was so happy to see it, and it's still in good shape. And so we put up some other markers to identify which directions to go to if you were coming over from the Widgeon Valley into the Debec Valley. And this was an old partial bridge that we made that I remembered taking a photo of back in the mid-90s. Still in place, but it never was much of a bridge, and it's even worse now. It's rotting out. But interesting to see the boulder in the background with all the roots that are coming over it. And we got half an hour or so up the trail heading for the Widgeon Pass, and we probably got to within about 1 kilometer to 1.5 kilometers of where we'd got to coming the other way. So next year's goal will be to link up and to mark it better, so we can try and put together the old Fool's Gold Trail. On the way back, we stopped at the Osprey Creek North and South campsites. Pretty incredible. Mark was part of putting these campsites in about 16 years ago. And there's Mark with his boat looking up the Debec Valley on the other side with the 5 fingers in the background. Those are all in Pinecone Burke Provincial Park. And just a close-up of those. And we did a few trips up into the top end of Pinecone Burke Provincial Park, up in the Mamquam area. So this is just outside of the park. This is a road that used to be drivable in the 90s and is no longer drivable. And some people would think it's not even walkable anymore, but we've worked on it over the last couple of years, and it's actually muchly improved. This was in June, still some snow pushing over the alder. Where we headed up to November Lake, nice waterfall coming out just before getting to the lake. And then when we were there at the end of June, there was snow covered, and that's Gillespie Mountain in the background and up to the top right.
Nice shot.
Thanks, Elaine. And as we're crossing the creek on the way down, just seeing the skunk cabbage starting to come up as soon as the snow disappears. And again, this was, I think, at the beginning of September or end of August. That's Gillespie Mountain again. That's where the park boundary, where you're going to head into Pinecone Burke Provincial Park. And we were heading up to Seed Peak, and that's looking down at Pinecone Lake and Little Pinecone Lake in the background. And that's the rock cairn on top of Seed Peak, looking at Gillespie Mountain here on the left. And then the 5 fingers just kind of poking out on the top right area. And then getting to November Lake with Gillespie Mountain without snow, the full aqua green color created by the glacier that's near Gillespie Mountain. As the E100 road that is no longer drivable, but we're certainly making it more walkable and putting up some signs. Dean made a template of this old hiker sign, and we're starting to put more of those up. And Brian was up there on an overnight trip where we were proving the trail, taking an area that was totally overgrown and opening it up. And you gotta think, this was an old road, and it was totally overgrown. And a very steep section that was horrendous to try and get through the old growth and up into the meadows, heading towards Boise Valley, is now walkable. And I think this is the last shot. So Brian's happy to be out there with that, opening up something for other people to get into the area. So here's all the people to thank for the photographs for tonight. And I thank everybody for contributing. And I'll stop screen sharing. And I'll turn it over to Victoria for the door prizes.
Okay. Hold on. I will try to screen share here. Just have to find what happened to this door prize thing. Sorry, folks. I can't find it.
You can't find what?
I can't find the door prize file. Can you guys see that? Probably not, eh?
No, you're not screen sharing yet.
Yeah. It's gone.
Do we have to see the prizes? Just tell us what they are.
I don't believe it. What's happened?
Everybody's patiently waited for this.
Yeah.
So, okay,
I
so
see it on my screen.
What, you can't screen share or you can't?
I go to screen share. Let
Yeah.
me just have it open. And then go to screen share.
Because you're not sharing your screen yet. So try that first.
Yeah, oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Okay. Yep. It's here. It's here. Hooray. Hooray. Okay. So what can you guys see?
I can see, and the winner is Excel
No.
generated random number.
Okay. So this is the festive Excel spreadsheet, which does indeed generate a random number. And so while you have been enjoying the slideshow, I've been copying down all the connections that we have. So I don't know whether you see, can you see it?
Yeah, I see the names. How many connections did we have?
At the maximum, we had 36.
Wow.
And last I looked, we had 32. But what I hadn't counted on when I was preparing this is that people would be coming and going. And so I'm just going to do the random number. I'm going to choose a random number between, I'm going to let Excel choose the random number between 1 and 36. You'll see your names here. They're all in alphabetical order according to your computer's name.
Okay.
And it's just by connection. So Jim and Judy, you're not going to be entered twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut down those numbers.
And so all executive members and their spouses, they're going to be removed. If they win, they don't count, okay?
So are we, because we have two prizes to draw, which one are we going to draw first?
First of all, we're going to draw a calendar from the Wilderness Committee, and I'm assured that this is a calendar for 2023. We used to sell these calendars actually as a fundraiser. I don't know whether anybody remembers that.
I do.
For BMN. So I'm just copying this little formula up into the appropriate square here. And when I press enter, it's going to draw a random number between 1 and 36. And that number, the name that corresponds to that number, will be the winner of the Wilderness Committee calendar. So yes, drum roll. For 31.
31.
So let's see who that
Who
is.
remembered number 31 is? Oh, Mr. Butler.
Okay. So Rob, I don't know whether you're still on the call. We'll get that calendar to you.
I thought they still had to be on the call.
No, I
okay.
can't do it. I can't do it. 'Cause I
Okay.
can't figure out who's still on and who isn't still on.
All right. Well, they have to say, they can come on and say, hey, I'm Rob. I'm on the line. I get my calendar.
So we'll do another draw now for the gift certificate for the Backyard Bird Center.
I need some help on the drum roll here because it's a real big prize.
Okay, right. There we go. So I'm going to press enter. And the number is 15.
Woo! Jane Shoemaker. Woo!
Jane is still on the call. Are you still on the call, Jane?
I am.
Right on.
Hey, Jane, look at you.
I'll pop that in the mail to you tomorrow, Jane.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Make sure you get the right address.
I'll make sure I do. Yes.
I have not moved. I have not moved.
Okay.
I have your address then. That's just great. Okay, well, congratulations to Rob and Jane. That's excellent.
That's great.
Well done.
And all the other losers.
And I'll stop screen sharing now. There we go.
Well, there's more losers than winners, but that's okay. I think we're all winners by looking at all the stuff that we've done this year with BMN. So
yeah, definitely.
Ian,
all right.
I'd really like to thank you and your trail crew for all the outstanding work you've done once again this year. I'm always so impressed when you tell us of how much you've accomplished each summer. So thank you for all that work on behalf of BMN. It's great.
Believe it, Dean's on the line here, and we just love getting out there. It's, you know, it's a reason to get out there, and we make it available for, you know, other people to go to places that were difficult to get to before. So
Wonderful.
So any questions, or there weren't too many comments during the pictures, but I don't know if anybody had any questions or any thoughts before we end the meeting.
No, good meeting.
All right, okay. So I would like to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah, season's greetings, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and most of all, happy Festivus.
Festivus.
Happy Festivus. So be safe throughout the holidays, and thanks very much. Please go to the website and renew your membership. That would be great. And otherwise, we'll see you back on January 19th, if not before, if we decide to have a show and share before then. But our next meeting is scheduled for January 19th. And Victoria, did you want to say anything about the Christmas bird count?
Well, I think it's already, it's pretty
Out
well
there?
set up. Anybody
Okay.
who's interested, you know, if you're really keen, shoot me an email or give me a phone call. Contact information is in the last newsletter, and we're set to go on Saturday, December 31st.
Great. And if the executive wants to stick around afterwards, we can have a little brief meeting. So
I'd just like to thank the executive, particularly Victoria, for looking after things while Google had issues with me being in another country for a short period of time. So thank you, Victoria.
No problem.
And
you, Victoria.
To Ian, is Festivus scheduled yet?
not well, it's always the 23rd.
Okay.
But yeah, so if anybody's interested in Festivus, let me know.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so everybody, good night.
Everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Happy
New
Year, happy holidays.
holidays.
Thank you, Ian.
Bye-bye.
Everybody.